Boom. Secret murderer who stalks people over the phone. Boom. Psychopath breaks down the door with a knife and yells creepily. Boom. Jump scare in the forest with no one around to hear you scream. Boom. Creepy, whatever the hell that thing is. Jesus Christ. Chasing you and your friends down as you wait for help to arrive and all you can do is survive. You see where I'm going with this? Yes? Good. Now, the horror genre. A magnificent collection of what the hell is going on here. Oh my god, we're all gonna die. The perfect combination of screaming, fear, stabbing, suspense, and a sick soundtrack. Pivot a little bit to the video game section of this genre. We got Five Nights at Freddy's, Devour, Fears to Fathom, The Mortuary Assistant, Dead by Daylight. Technically it's classified as one, but we all know it really isn't. And In Silence. It's highly likely everyone here knows the premise of at least one of these games, or has played at least one of them. These are but a few of the grand multitude of games that fill the video game horror genre. Now, whether you're a horror enthusiast who loves this adrenaline rush, or someone like me that is an absolute coward, hates horror, still plays these video games for some reason, why do we do this to ourselves? Whatever. We all know the main idea is to immerse and freak the living daylights out of the player. Horror video games do this in many ways. They use the character details and designs to depict horrifying creatures. They use sudden jump scares and flashing lights to trigger our flight or fight response through the amygdala. And they use a combination of both diegetic and non-diegetic sounds to elevate our immersion and anxiety. And these are all great methods, wonderful choices, but sometimes it doesn't always work to use them all. For example, the Resident Evil series, which, an impressive video game series as it is, but in its early days had a lack of proper jump scares. It also had a soundtrack that allowed the viewer to understand when they were safe and lose their anxiety. Like, you hear a certain song and you're like, oh, I'm in a safe spot. I can't die here, so nothing I do matters. It's like, well. It also had some major plot holes. Ending to Resident Evil 5. Regardless, usually the simplest method is one of the most effective ones. Just use diegetic sound. I mean, like, only sounds that exist in the setting the player is in and nothing else. Forget background music. Forget jump scares. Just use diegetic sounds. The lack of non-diegetic sounds is the most effective way to induce anxiety and fear into our systems. I'm going to prove it to you. It is far more frightening and anxiety-inducing to hear the breathing of your character running in the woods and the leaves crunching as something chases behind you, rather than listening to some tense chase music as your character runs with unlimited stamina and no sign of growing tired or dying. When you take away the background music, it leaves only what our minds can perceive as real. What I mean by this is that having nothing clouding up the background leaves the mind open to imagination, and since the diegetic sounds pull us into the character we're playing, we become fully immersed. So our brains connect with the anxiety that our in-game character has and transfers it over to the real world. In the last few years, more horror video games have focused on the idea of full immersion and psychological mind games to scare players. As stated by James Bowen in Sound in Video Games, How Sound is an Important Aspect of the Virtual Experience, quote, all hyper-realistic uses of sound, particularly by high-budget video game companies, is done in an attempt to ensure the player does not experience schizophrenia, the brain's automatic attempt to distinguish real songs and their fake/reproduced sounds, which can cause a break of immersion and enjoyment, end quote. Now, let's break down the two main aspects of diegetic sounds in horror video games, and why these are the strongest fear factors. We have environmental and immersion/impact sounds. Environmental sounds are what occur in the background to affect the perception of the player in the game. The trees rustling in a windy storm, the footsteps as the player runs through the forest. These sounds are, in simple terms, just creating the environment for the player. Each audio clip lines up with what's occurring in the background of the game and what would make sense if the video game took place in the real world. It keeps the realism effect, and it holds the player down into the mind of the character they're playing. It becomes believable to us. A great example of this is in The Last of Us, which is a zombie-based horror video game. The game uses ambient noise such as frogs croaking and running water to create a believable environment. You don't actually see frogs croaking, and you don't always see the water immediately, but you know what that sound is like, and you can register it with something you know in your brain. As James Bowen says, quote, "These all enhance the experience and create a sense of fear in the player through realism that the player can enjoy," end quote. Creating an environment for the player with hyper-realistic noises from the real world essentially blends reality and fantasy together. This blend is necessary to entrap the player and prevent them from remembering that it's just a game, again making diegetic sound the best fear factor in horror games. Moving to immersion, or the impact on the player, this is how sound impacts the player's feelings and mental responses to what is occurring in the game. Oh, but how is this different from environmental sounds? Oh yeah, this sounds like the frogs croaking. Well, I'll tell you. Give me a second. Instead of focusing on the ambient noises, we turn our focus on noises such as gunshots, sound of flesh being sliced as the sword runs through it, and the grunts of pain as our character slowly dies and we are trying to scurry to safety. These sound effects and their reaction times that occur allow us to place ourselves in the mind of the main character, despite us not actually being there. For example, though it is not real nor being an actual friend of ours, hearing a gunshot in a horror game or hearing the slicing of another character's flesh as their dead body hits the floor, the realistic diegetic sounds produced influence our brains into thinking that it's real and that our friend just died. Look, it's pretty simple. Like, here's an example of someone dying in a game with hyper-realistic sounds.
It's okay, baby. We're safe. We're safe. Hey, we need help.
Stop!
Please. It's my daughter. I think her leg is broken.
Stop right there!
Okay. We're not sick.
Got a couple of civilians in the outer perimeter. Please advise.
Daddy, what about Uncle Tommy?
We're gonna get you to safety and go back for him, okay?
Sir, there's a little girl. But... Yes, sir.
Somebody, we've just been through hell. Okay, we just need... Shit. Please don't.
It hit you in the feels, right? Felt a bit real? You probably had that sense even if it was just a little bit of shock, sadness, or surprise. If you didn't, take a look at this scene from Choo Choo Charles, another horror video game, where, spoilers, the intro guide character dies pretty quickly in the start.
This isn't how.
It doesn't really have the same impact as the other clip, right? Boom. Impact sound. Alongside this, the immersion sounds are meant to line up with the visuals in the game, which confirm to the player that this is an action that is occurring and allows us to further place ourselves into the mindset of the main character. We must respond to these audio and visual cue prompts from the game, as both our sight and sound are focused on them, making it seem like everything we do and choose matters, instead of a video game lining up a predetermined ending for us. My final example is the video game Don't Scream, a relatively new addition to the video game horror genre, where the whole premise is to keep your voice extremely low and never scream or get loud once for 18 minutes straight. The catch? There are randomly generated jump scares, and you must keep the character moving at all times. The game is the embodiment of diegetic sounds, because there's nothing else. It's just diegetic sounds and some jump scares. There's the usage of forest ambient noise, rustling from the random jump scares, the creepy noise of the shopping cart rolling by, to even the faint sounds of people chattering as you see a flashlight out in the woods that looks just like yours for some reason. Since the game forces you to keep moving, You, the player, are forced to react to things as they happen, and suddenly you're in the game yourself. Not literally, but you must pay attention to everything that's going on. And with the heightened hyper-realistic sounds, as well as a timer ticking down on your screen, it's very difficult to keep your anxiety at a low. With no background music, there's nothing to ground you into reality. And I don't know for sure about you, but if there was any background music, I would just be jamming to that instead of whatever's in front of me. In total, horror video games have been focusing on the usage of diegetic over non-diegetic sounds to scares for the last few years, and with everything that's been mentioned, it's clear to see that the scare factor has risen. Not convinced? Go walk alone out in the woods late at night without looking at your phone or listening to anything. Tell me you aren't just a little bit nervous when an owl spooks you. Thank you.